Hi, my name is Leslie Cervantes, and I am a career and empowerment coach, and I help women go from stuck to unstoppable with clarity, ease, confidence, and joy. And I'm so excited to join you on Conversations with Pearl.
Hello, sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here. Once you leave the clouds, you're under 80. Funny how there ain't no rain or clean. Why'd it take so long to leave you in the rearview mirror? Now nobody gonna steal my sunshine or turn my blue sky gray. All I know is at the end of the day, wildflowers grow when there ain't no shade.
All right, everybody, I am so excited. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Pearl. And I love having other women that are in the same space that I am. We do things a little differently, but I just think it's so empowering to meet other women, other coaches that are out there, empowering you to do something with your life, to not just be stuck where you are, because you don't have to be stuck where you are. And today on Conversations with Pearl, we're talking exactly about that. Some of the great things that we're going to bring on today. You're going to love this conversation. So sit back, get your glass of wine, hot tea, whatever it is you're doing right now, and let's get talking. I am excited to introduce our guest today. Her name is Leslie Cervantes, and after 7 years working in the government sector, and I know that all about that. My husband was 30 plus years in the government sector, so I totally get where she decided to pivot her career as to become an entrepreneur, an author, helping women like herself to find that joy, success, and fulfillment in their career paths. Who doesn't want that, right? I mean, we want to be fulfilled in everything we're doing. It's got to be a passion for us. And Leslie's signature system is from stuck to unstoppable, serves women who are in the current plan, that pain of feeling stuck and frustrated or in that limbo of their career. Like, where's their current career going? And so as a career empowerment coach, Leslie helps clients step into their full leadership potential in their careers with more ease, clarity, confidence, and joy. Who doesn't want joy in our life every day? So Leslie also has a BS in sociology and women's and gender studies from Santa Clara University and is certified in neuroscience quantum wiring, which that is so, I love that. So Leslie, welcome to Conversations with Pearl. We're so excited to have you today.
Thank you, Pearl. I'm so excited to be here as well, and I can't wait for this wonderful conversation. I think it's going to be full of so many golden nuggets. It's super important conversation for us women to have, and I'm just honored to be here. So thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. So I always like to start way back, right? So let's start when you were younger. Like, tell the listeners, what was your life like growing up?
So growing up, first of all, my first language wasn't English. So there was definitely a language barrier growing up. And a lot of what I learned was just through books and like images. And I realized how important just being connected and having conversation was, because I didn't have that growing up. And I knew that it was a challenge I was willing to take on. And I'm like, I'm going to learn English because Spanish was my first language. And I just wanted to connect so badly. And now I'm able to provide a platform where I hold space that's safe for women to connect regardless of their background. And because books helped me so much, I myself became an author because I understood the importance of, there's times where I wasn't able to learn something in a school setting, but maybe I was able to learn it through a book. And so just feeling connected, regardless of the platform, is so important. I think having those spaces for us women, whatever space it may be, as long as we feel like we feel seen, we feel heard, we feel validated, we feel understood, that's so important. I'm also the oldest of three. I'm a first generation college graduate, the first to graduate in my family. So talk about being a trailblazer and leading by example. And it also came with a lot of pressure being the first in my family, being, the one that my family come to for support and guidance as well. A lot of it felt a lot I felt a lot of pressure at times too. And so, but I realized I wasn't alone in feeling this way. It's actually really common amongst women, and not necessarily amongst the eldest in the sibling line. It could be the youngest, it could be the middle. And so just realizing that my story and even my upbringing isn't necessarily unique to me, but that more women can actually relate and go through similar experiences. And so my goal is to help women, regardless of where they started, be the women and the version of themselves they want and get to choose to be in the now.
And I love that what you said there, but I want to go back a little bit. So I was picturing you as this little girl, like all those obstacles you had to come in, like learning the language and being in a different country and having to take that on. Every summer I have French kids to come over. They're getting ready to arrive in a couple weeks. Since COVID, we haven't had them the last 2 years, and they come here to be immersed in learning and improving on their English. And like you, I just can't imagine, being in that country and not, understanding and having to learn to communicate, because that's going to be your survival and in thriving. Right. And so I think it's, those that are listening, that's a huge obstacle to overcome. And then let's talk about, I'm the oldest too in my family. So pressure just being the oldest, but let's talk about, that pressure of being a trailblazer, like you said, and really, setting that bar. And so I have a question. So do you have sisters and brothers? Where do the two younger siblings, what are they?
Yeah, so I have three younger brothers, and I do want to clarify that I was born here. However, my parents were not. They immigrated from Mexico, and so they weren't able to teach me a lot of things when they first immigrated here, one of them being the language. So I am the oldest of three brothers, and I'm super close to all three of them. One lives out of state, and two live here near where I'm currently living. So
I love that. And so how did some of them, what was their career path? Like, did you empower them through what you did in that trailblazing you set? How did you see, like you were talking about your parents being immigrants here too, like how did you see the dynamic in your family shift as they saw this great success you're doing and learning from you?
yeah, so the beautiful thing that when we ourselves become empowered, it just has this trickle effect onto our own immediate circle, including family members. And so when I finally made the choice to quit my job, which was scary as hell, and become an entrepreneur, there was a special place and in place and time where I don't know if it was just the universe or what it was, but all three of my brothers, at the same time as I was making this transition, they themselves were making transitions to up level in their careers and where they were at. So it was just like this moment of like, this is why I do what I do, because it empowers not just myself, it empowers the people around me and beyond me. It's just a beautiful domino effect. And so I remember one of my brothers, he was like in a toxic work environment and he was able to leave that job. And now he's applying for a state position with better benefits, more bonuses, more income. My other younger brother promoted to manager. My other one uh, started working for himself. So he's a contracted worker, setting his own schedule. This being my youngest brother, doing starting his first career as self-employed. So that for me to witness that as the eldest or just as their sister, that's part of my why. This is why I do what I do, because I get to see firsthand the impact that it has on other people's lives for the better.
Yeah, and and so for those that are listening, this is where I always say too, like what we do in our actions, especially for what I love to call a CEO mom, that mom who's running that household, our actions and how we show how we're treated and everything to our younger, whether it's your kids or your younger siblings or or just girls around you or people that are around you, your actions can really, set a precedent or empower somebody. I always like to give the analogy, and my listeners will say, here she goes again. But I always like to say, we are born, and whoever you believe in, I have a faith in God. So God, in my belief, is that he's giving us this talent and these tools that we are already have in us. And it's up to us to find out what those are that he's provided us with, and then how we can use that. And when we don't do that, we cheat ourselves, but then we're not paying it forward. Like what you're doing, the example you gave, just starting with your siblings, right? We're not paying it forward to other people that we need to pay it forward to. And that's, that's so selfish if we don't do that, So it's really, really important that, just like Leslie was saying, is to don't sit on those talents you have, like share them and get them out there, because I want to know, I want to learn, I want to learn how to go from stuck to unstoppable. And those of you that are listening want to learn that as well. So thanks for that reminder, Leslie. I just think it's so powerful.
Thank you. And you said something so important, like going back to what you said about, there she goes again. I'd rather someone say, there she goes again, there Leslie goes again doing something big, than someone saying, hey, I haven't seen Leslie in a while. What is she up to? So if someone's not saying, there she goes again, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. And I always tell women, everything is negotiable in life, salary, responsibilities. What is not negotiable is me living fully in my purpose. I'm not ever negotiating that again, because when I compromised on doing something that wasn't in alignment with who I am and my purpose, it sucked. It felt like I was swimming upward against stream. And it's not about, I want everything, life to always feel easy and it's always in flow, because things happen. But I can tell you this, living my life in my purpose is so much better. The abundance, the synchronicity, the people I meet, my conversations, me being here, it's beautiful and it's rewarding and it's empowering as well. So that's no longer negotiable for me.
I love that. And so those that are listening, you heard that it's not negotiable. Like live in that purpose, because we control who and our path, right? And so, we talk about self-care. You and I were talking about this before we hopped on here. And oftentimes I will hear women say, well, my family or my job or, those around me think I'm being selfish when I go do something for myself, or I'm not doing for them first, I'm doing for me first. And truly, that's a good thing, because if you don't do for you first, you can't pour into those that you care about, those you're responsible for, that job, that career, even your entrepreneurship. You can't show up fully if you haven't poured into your cup. And I want to ask you, what are some of the things we've talked about, life growing up, we talked about some of your obstacles. What are some of the things or some of the people that have influenced you that helped you pour into your cup?
The very first person in my life who influenced me was my mentor who I was paired with in high school. Her name is Pam. And having her in my life has been a huge blessing, because she was the first person who helped me truly, one, see my potential before I ever did, and two, really help me believe that I can do anything I set my mind to. She helped me apply to my dream university, early action, and helped me, and I got in. So I got in with practically a full scholarship. College before my mentor didn't even seem like an actual possibility for me. So having a mentor or a trusted coach, someone who's like a soundboard, someone who walks alongside our, with us on our journey and can help us when we feel stuck or just need guidance around something. It's so, so important. That's something that I highly encourage for women if they don't already have a trusted mentor or a trusted coach. The importance of investing in ourselves is invaluable. Like you said earlier, a lot of times we as women, we want to pour onto others from an empty cup. But one thing I want to share with you all today is that we can still care for others while still caring for ourselves. Let's not forget about that, because a lot of us are running on empty or on fumes and still adding more to our plate, when really rest and recovery time for ourselves is actually what's going to help us be more productive and help us to pour more into the cups of those we love, whether it be our children or our significant other or people in our community or in around the world. So the importance of filling your cup, it doesn't make you selfish, and actually it allows you to pour even more. So it's actually an act of love to pour into ourselves first. And a lot of times we don't see it that way. There's a lot of shame and shaming other women. Like, we need to stop that of, oh my gosh, you did that for yourself. What about your kids? What about this? What about that? It's like, well, what about you? Because it's true what you said. Our kids see what women and moms do, and moms lead by example as well. So
Yeah, I think it's so powerful. Like I remember, before my journey came in kind of late in my life. I mean, I'm 58 years young. My kids are 25 and 22, and truly not until my oldest he graduated in 2015, so really not even 10 years ago, I really started going, okay, who am I? And that's because I took a class, and through the class we had to give an identity destiny statement, and I had a friend call me out, and my I am statement was nothing about who Pearl was. It was wife, mom, everything else but who I was. And as I started to go after that course and really started to do some reflection and going, who am I really? I went back to when my kids were little, like that kindergarten time age. And I remember I was on a street and I was the only person working on that street. Everybody else was stay-at-home moms. And I remember I'm like going, wow, even as an adult, there was bullying, because I remember them going, well, we didn't invite you because you work, or why aren't you, this whole like throwing shade at me. And, and as I've come through this journey, and now that I coach women, I'm like, you don't know what the story is behind that door. You don't understand why, in this day and age, a lot more moms are having to work outside the house. There's 2 household incomes that are needed, and so I look back as I was going through that journey going, wow, like, just like you said, we need to lift up women more, because we have so much on our plate, and so much, I feel like, though, that since COVID, I feel like through COVID, we had a little shift that said, we need to figure out some balance in our family, because this always going needs to stop. And then also we did some self-reflection, because our mental fitness through the COVID was really, we all know how much it's affected us all mentally. And I feel like we've kind of we're coming through the other side. We're going, yeah, I need to have another household income, but I want it to be something I enjoy. I don't want to come home and be like, oh my God, I just come home from work. Oh, now I got to do my CEO role, at the house. And I feel like there's more communication, especially when I'm coaching the women that I'm coaching, that, having that communication around, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's not because I don't love you, but it's because I need to do some things for myself. And I can't think of the reporter's name. It just came out, I think yesterday. She's been on CNN for over 20 years, and she's retiring. She's stopping working because she says she realized, I forget what they're calling it, the Great American quitting, or there's a word for it right now. I don't know it, but I don't listen to quotes all the time. But she's like, I realized through staying home at COVID, and her husband had gotten COVID really badly, that my family is more important. I love you guys, but my family's important. And, it's so powerful that when we can uplift and celebrate a woman that's doing that, to say, there's no shame in being home. There's no shame in being a CEO mom. There's no shame in working out of the house, because we do, like you said, we do need to uplift women. And I love that you had that mentor, Pam, to help you see that and see your potential. Growing up where I went to school, college wasn't discussed. There was no mentors to help you get into college. It was like, you were going to go be a contract worker, work in a grocery store. That's where I grew up at. And so on my own, I've always had an entrepreneur spirit in my heart, and I've just wanted to pay it forward. And I love that you're doing the same thing. And so what I want to know is, let's talk about self-care for a minute, 'cause we're on that subject right now. And I know before you hopped on, you did something that I like to do as well. I often do what I like to call a staycation, and I'm in sunny South Florida. So I'm 20, 40 minutes from the beach. So I love once a quarter to just go get a hotel room, hang out at the beach overnight, 1 or 2 days, it doesn't matter, and just turn everything off. And you just did that, right?
I did. I actually did it on Saturday with my soulmate. And We went, it was like less than 2 hours away. I also wanted to follow the beach. It was really hot where I currently live. And so where we went, it was like 30 degrees, colder. And so we were like in our scarf and our jackets, but it was just, and I was just very intentional about disconnecting from electronics because there's just so much stimulation going on. Whether you're an entrepreneur or not, a lot of our lives, we're checking emails or checking our phone or social media, what have you. So I was very intentional about disconnecting. And the whole purpose of getting away was just to recenter. And that's the beautiful thing, is that it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be far. And it doesn't have to be many days. Like I wanted it to be, Saturday to Sunday, and that was it. And it made such a difference. Like, not only did we feel closer, we just enjoyed the day, sitting at the beach at a bench, having some ice cream, having dinner. And that's one thing that I encourage women about self-care is do something fun. Take that vacation, take a staycation, go to a comedy club, volunteer at your favorite organization. What is something that you've been wanting to do as you that you haven't done in a while? Maybe you used to ice skate and you haven't been ice skating in a while, or you've been wanting to take a ceramics class. What is holding you back? And make intentional time to go and do that. That's what's going to fill your cup even more.
I love that. And I love that you said, because the thing too is, that's a good point too, is you don't have to do it by yourself. You can take a soulmate. I've taken one of my clients before. I'm like, come on, you need some time away. I'm going, let's go. It's like, it's on me. We're going to hang out in the same hotel room. We're going to, and you just kind of have some silent time and, unplug from everything. And it's just so important to do that because, we're not promised tomorrow that, and we don't know what's going to happen an hour from today. Things, we're watching the world change in front of us today. And that's one of the things that I started a retreat. I started this pajama retreat I was mentioning to you before we came on. And the pajama retreat is meant to be exactly that. It's meant to disconnect from everything that's going around you, reconnect with yourself, take off your makeup, and just spend some quiet time with a community of women who want the same thing you do. They just want to reconnect with themselves. They want to have more direction in their life. And, and really, like you said, feel stuck from being go from stuck to unstoppable, kind of the same thought process. And I've watched women, and I always love when I share the story. My second retreat that I did, we had spots, like we had one spot left, and somebody called the day. It's normally Thursday we check out on Monday from the hotel or from the house. And so she said, my boyfriend said I can come. I know it's last minute. Do you have a spot? I'm like, we have a spot. If you don't mind sharing a bed, you got a spot. Yeah. And so she came, and I have these amazing speakers that come in, and typically we don't know too much about the women. I have a questionnaire to find some things out, and I try to match them up with some of the speakers just so they have a mentor for the weekend. So because it was so late, we didn't know much about her. We did not know her story. She just came. And so our first speaker is very connected spiritually. She's just an amazing person. And she wasn't going to be able to stay the whole weekend, which normally they do. And so she got done talking, and she's like, I know probably you have a timeline, and I don't stick to my schedule. I have a schedule, but we go off. If somebody needs to be poured into, we just go off schedule. That's what it's meant to be. And she's like, there's somebody in this room that feels like they're going to give up right now. And I was like, well, some of the people are. She goes, no, there's somebody in here that just feels like it's over. And it turned out that this attendee who'd come, she had just got diagnosed with breast cancer again. And she was like, she was, very devastated and thought life was over. And the speaker, Kia was her name. She poured into her, and she's like, you don't get to decide your dash. Only one person knows when we're leaving this world. So what are you going to do about your dash right now? You are here right now. You're awake, you're walking, you're breathing. What are you going to do about that right now? Are you going to let cancer define you? No, there's other things to come. And the great thing was, she got so much out of that retreat. She left the retreat feeling so empowered, feeling life was just all hers and she was going to conquer it. And she's come through the cancer. She has a grandbaby now. And I always love to share that story because that's what being empowered is about. Like what you do and what I do is empowering women to be like, I don't have to put up with this stuff. I can change it. I can change the mindset, and get up in the morning and say, my world's beautiful, or I can choose to get up and say, my world sucks, And so I want to know from you, what are some of the things that you do personally, and then when you work with the women you work with, to help them get past that being unstuck? Because listen, coaches need coaches. I tell that all the time. I have my crappy days.
Absolutely.
And pretty soon this afternoon, I have a TikTok that's going to go up talking about some crap that's happening in my world right now. And so, I have a coach too, that if I don't get up and tell myself my day's a beautiful day, I'm going to have a bad day. So what do you do to keep yourself on that positive thought process, and how do you pay it forward to the women you work with?
Well, as I mentioned, investing in myself, I myself have a coach. Doctors need doctors, massage therapists need massage therapists, hairdressers need a hairdresser for themselves, right? So can we accomplish the things we want to accomplish in our life alone? Sure. But can we get a lot further and in a more time efficient way with working in community? Absolutely. I am a big believer that as women, we can do so many things on our own, but together, collectively, we can do so much more and in a shorter span of time. So I don't want to spend 10 years learning how to run my business. I want to be able to, because there's things that I want to make an impact and have and support women now. So I invested in a career coach who is still my coach to this day, and I have so much respect for her, and I love working with her as well. And so that's one of my ways of staying in this high vibration, I call it, because yes, life happens, and there's days where I'm like, I don't even want to get out of bed. How am I going to do this? Or just having a day, and that's okay too. One thing I've learned is during those days where I'm not feeling as inspired for whatever reason, life happens to all of us, to allow myself to just rest and have some quiet time. Because one thing I didn't share before going on this, getaway with my soulmate, I had actually spent the week before that with myself. I think spending time with yourself is so important, because that's where I'm able to get a lot of valuable, I call them downloads, or just things that speak to me during that time where I'm connected with myself. I get these messages about my truth, what it is that I need to do, clarity around any questions or doubts I've been having. So not being afraid to spend time with our own company as well. That's something else that really helps me. I love being connected, but I also spent like having that quality time with my own company, whether it's going, taking myself on a dinner date with myself, or planning a vacation where it's just myself. That's so, so important as well.
And I love that you remind everybody of that, because, we get so afraid to be by ourselves. I think sometimes, like, what am I going to do? Oh my gosh, there's so many things you can do. And even if it's just you sit and like, typically when I go, I find a place that serves breakfast that I can order DoorDash or something from, and I'm in my pajamas the whole time. Unless I'm near the beach, then I'll go watch the sunset. And sometimes I've been known to go watch the sunset in my pajamas, just because it's like, I don't know these people, they don't know me. Maybe if I run into somebody I know, who cares? They know that's how I am, because I've been known to show up like when I do, because I do speak, and I am an author, so I've been known to show up at speaking engagements in my PJs to be like, I'm just not being real with you, And I think the reason why I do that too with the retreats is I feel like when we do take our makeup off, we can be more real. Sometimes women hide behind what they're putting on their face, and I want to know who you really are. I want to know what drives you. I want to know what you're not doing that you've been wanting to do all your life, and how can we get you there? I love to share the story where I had a lady come in one time that I was coaching with, and I'm like, so she wanted to lose some weight. So we're working on that journey for her. And I was like, ask her all these questions about her health and stuff like that. And I haven't measured her. I haven't weighed her. And I'm like, okay, so tell me what happens when you lose this weight. And she's like, don't you want to know how much you want to lose? I'm like, no, because if you do what I teach you to do, you will lose the weight. But I don't know how it's going to change your life. And she had been divorced for, I think, almost 10 years and hadn't been in a relationship. And she's like, I want to meet somebody. I said, okay, so your homework this evening, we're going to weigh you. We're going to measure, because I need to know that so I can show you your success, because I know we need to see it. But your homework assignment for the next week is to go home and tell me write him up. We call it an avatar in businesses. I want to know what he looks like. Draw a picture of him. What color is his hair? Is he fit? Is he not fit? What's his, beliefs? Does he have family, not family? Like, I want to know all of that about him. And she's like, well, why? I said, well, because if you want to meet this person, we have to start preparing him to meet you. And she's like, what? She didn't understand the whole idea of manifestation. And I'm like, listen, I'm telling you right now, at the end of the year, I'm doing this. I don't remember what it was at the time, but I'm doing it. I'm already believing it right now. And, I think that truly goes to our mindset and, like you were saying, going away. So I wanted to know for you, what are some of the things, like, when you feel like, we talked about, how you stay positive, but what are some of the things right now that you're manifesting that you feel like, okay, if they start getting your way, how do you, get yourself back on track of that? And what's upcoming for you that you can share with us? Like, what dreams are you working on achieving today?
So yes, thank you. I'm so big on vision boards. One thing I'm manifesting right now, and not by accident, is I'm getting ready to co-author my a book called Brave Women Stand. And I also am the author of the book called Knowing When to Quit. And quit is actually an acronym. It stands for Quest for More, Unique Gifts and Talents, Invest in Yourself, and Tell Your Truth. And it's called it also has to do with what you mentioned earlier about you were talking about what's the term, and the term is, are you part of the Great Resignation? The resignation that's taking place right now, where a lot of women, especially, are leaving corporate jobs or uh, leaving jobs that maybe they have 12 years before retirement, and they're saying, you know what, I can't spend another year here. I want the quality of my life to be a whole lot different, and this job isn't allowing me to do it. And so, do I have wrenches occasionally in my life that come my way? Yeah, there's times where I'm like, is this meant to discourage me? But I always just look at, why am I doing what I am doing, and seeing where this challenge is coming from. Because sometimes what we think is meant to break us is actually meant to strengthen us and show us something that maybe we haven't yet already seen. Because I myself have my blinders. I think I know an approach to something, but you talked about God earlier. God knows the perfect way. So sometimes things don't happen my way, but they happen the way that they need to happen. And so I always just have this trust in the universe that it's going to guide me and take care of me. I mean, it's brought me, up to this point. And so just trusting that the universe has my back, and also taking aligned action. The things that I want haven't just landed on my lap. I've put in the work. I've planted the seeds, and at some point you'll get to reap the fruits of your labor, and that's where I'm at. I have put in the time. There's been times where I've been up until 3 in the morning if I feel inspired, and I'm like, oh, I really want to put that in my book. I'll wake up, hop on my laptop, and start writing, because that I'm feeling called to do it at that time. So I've been willing to do the things that most people aren't, and I think that is what has gotten me to where I am. And that's not to say anything negative about anyone else. It's just, hoping is not a strategy to getting the things you want in life. Hope is good to have, but action is what's going to get you steps closer to where you want to be. And so I'm really big on the action. One thing you said about your client about, attracting a soulmate, and making a list of what they're looking for, so that the universe doesn't randomly send her anybody. I do this with my clients with their career. I call it their wish list. What's your wish list? What are your non-negotiables? And a lot of times they're afraid to wish big. And I'm like, put it down. You never know. And it's so awesome when clients call me and they're like, I found a job opening exactly what it was that I asked for, that we went over during, my wish list non-negotiables. I'm like, that's not by accident. You manifested that because you wrote it down. So now it's almost like putting in an order to the chef, right? You're like, I want this meal with this, but without that. It's the same when you say, I want a career. This is the career I'm looking for. This is what I want. This is what I don't want. You're putting an order to the universe, and the universe is going to respond. So I love what you said about mindset. I agree 100% that before I even get started on focusing on the career aspect with my clients, the very first thing is mindset. What are some mental blocks that are going on? Let's identify them. Let's identify the root and get them out of and remove them, and then put new belief systems in place so that that can then guide them going forward. Because a lot of us have belief systems from our childhood that maybe worked for us then, maybe it helped us survive them, but it's no longer serving us in the now. It's actually holding us back. So what neuro quantum wiring does is, what I do with clients is we identify old patterns that uh unintentionally like self-sabotage women, and we create new systems of beliefs so that they can then carry forward with those new beliefs in place. Beliefs of feeling empowered, feeling worthy of love, feeling they are loved, feeling those words of just that they can do anything that they set their mind to, regardless of where they came from or regardless of their past. And embracing our past, it's part of our journey as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely our journey. Our past is definitely part of the journey. Which you said so much there that reminds you, like the neuroscience part of that, like the wiring of our brain, how we rewire it from when we were little. Because some of the things, like some of us have trauma from when we were little that we don't want to carry forward, but it's still, we're still stuck with it there. It's like we got to break that and break that shell that doesn't serve us anymore. And some of the things you said, I always like an analogy that I like to share too, is like, as you're going through this journey of what you wanted to achieve or what you're manifesting, like you said, it may all of a sudden be like, well, that's really what I wanted, but he's bringing me this way. And so I always like to say, it's like when you're going after your goal, climbing that mountain, stop and take a scenic picnic and reevaluate what you've done good and what's working, what's not working, and what's not working, pack it up and put it away where it needs to be put away at, and then go on. And then once you reach a goal, you don't have to fall down a hill. You can keep climbing the next mountain, or if you need to come down a hill, you do that. Excuse me. So, I love that you share that analogy. And I one of the things I do is called positive intelligence, which is around mindset and dealing with things like sometimes things get thrown at us and we're like in the middle of that. It's like, how do I want to respond to that? Right. It's like, you have to watch what comes out of the mouth so that you don't say the wrong thing. And so one of the things that I love with the positive intelligence is the PQ reps. Like there's things like you can rub your fingers together. I'm a big proponent. I like to do things people can't see me doing. So like if I get nervous or if I'm, somebody's saying something that's like frustrating me and I can feel it like anting up going, okay, how do I want to respond? I'll roll my toes. I have this thing about rolling my toes and it just kind of calms me down. And then another thing I do, which I learned when I was a Dale Carnegie coach, is come up with the 3 best responses. Like what are the top 3 things and how I can respond to this? And then pick the best one and forget the other 2 and respond. It just helps me to be like, okay, let me evaluate all of this. Is this where I want to go with it? So I love that you shared, on that aspect as well about, how we're wired.
Yeah, I love what you just said about practicing, certain responses and choosing the one that feels the right one for you and in alignment with you, to know how to respond in certain scenarios, especially those more tough scenarios. Because one of the things I hear clients say is, no one ever taught me boundaries growing up. And so I have clients that are, working for the top four tech companies in Silicon Valley, or they're attorneys, and they're like, I was never taught this. And so I realized that there's a need to, yes, positivity is important, but also communicating where you draw the line. And a lot of women are afraid to do that. And I, growing up, was terrified to do that because in my household, I was taught that to be seen and not heard. So dare I say something, that came with a repercussion. So then I was the same way at work. Someone would ask me, are you okay with doing this additional task? And internally I was drowning, but on the outside I put on this facade of, I'm okay, yeah, sure, pile more stuff on me. Instead of saying, you know what, actually at this very moment, I have enough on my plate. Can we delegate this to someone else? no one taught me those things. So now I'm very intentional about guiding women on setting these boundaries, especially in their career, because as much as people want to say, oh, leave your personal life at home and leave work at work, we are multifaceted and everything is connected. If there is a disbalance between our work and home or home and work, it will bleed into one another. And I always believe there's 7 key areas in our life that there needs to be harmony in. And it's beyond just our career and our life. It's also, our connection to the community, hobbies, um, our finances. So that's why take a holistic approach in career coaching. I don't just focus on the career and making more money. One of the benefits is women will make these career changes either in their current career by setting more boundaries or transitioning if that's what they choose. I simply help them give clarity on what choice they need to make. But with it also comes more income. Why? Because a lot of old programming is once I reach success, I'll be happy. I don't believe that. I believe once we find what makes us happy, success will follow.
I love that. I just think that's so true. It's like once you find it, the success is going to follow. It doesn't stop there. It's such
Mhm.
a great example of that. So I just love this. Has been such fun conversation. This always happens. Like we start getting going. It's like, oh, I want to go longer. I want to go longer. I want to ask you a question. So, I talk about this pajama retreat, right? So we have
Yes.
this pajama retreat. This year we're going September 15th through September 19th of 2022. We're going to the Gulf Shores of Alabama. And so the really cool thing is the cost includes everything except for your transportation there and Sunday
Mhm.
lunch. And the Sunday lunch is because I feel like when I go into a community, I want to give back. So we all go out to a local business owned restaurant and we try to order and pay it forward. So I want to ask you this question. So you're at a pajama retreat, you're no makeup, you're around 20 other women. What does that sound like and feel like to you? And here's the thing I tell the women, listen, you can let the girls hang loose. There's no bra required. However, this is literally being with your girlfriends. So being at a pajama retreat where, experience the journey of possibilities is a theme for you. What's something that if you were to go to that retreat, what would you walk in there? What would you hope to walk away from when you hear that theme?
It just feels so liberating and authentic. I love spaces where we can feel like we don't have to have a facade, like carry this facade like many of us do in your careers. Just being able to come and say, this is who I am. This is, you know, part of my experience. Would you like to share yours? And just making those connections. I think especially during COVID, many of us, and myself included, felt disconnected from other people. There's just certain things that can't be achieved through a Zoom meeting. And the fact that you're having this in person, and I also like that it sounds playful, right? When I think of pajamas, I think of like my childhood and like good memories with like growing up with my siblings or my cousins and the importance of having that playful element as well. Like sometimes, yes, life gets serious, but we steer so far away from our playful side and showing that side to the world, whether it be in a podcast or in a Zoom video. Just a lot of times we don't share that side of ourselves. So the fact that you're holding the space, and it may sound like, oh, a pajama party, like who has time for that? But you would like one thing is one thing I'm learning as a career and empowerment coach is there's a lot of healing that needs to occur as well. And so I also think of the word healing when you say pajama party, just something beautiful happening where there's going to be healing taking place. And you shared that with the client that, was diagnosed with cancer twice. You never know whose life you're touching. You never know if someone's at, you know, even considering taking their life, and because they attended a pajama party with other women, they they reconnected with their sense of purpose. I had a client once tell me during my burnout to balance immersion, she said she had shared before attending this immersion, I felt like I wasn't even existing, or I was just existing through the world, like a leaf just being blown where in whatever direction. And being there and connecting with other women and me just leading the conversation, she said she's like, thank you for allowing me to feel seen. I haven't felt seen in many years. That's powerful. So I'm so glad that you're having this. If those of you that are interested in attending, this is your sign to attend. Give yourself that permission to do something for yourself. Pearl and I are here as resources, and you are free to connect with us whenever you are ready to.
I did not pay her, you guys, for any of that. She didn't know that question was coming. And, that was just touched my heart, because you described exactly how I feel about this retreat. Like, this is our 6th one we're doing. And I feel like that. I feel like we have had women come in there to come through all kinds of different stories. You can't even imagine that they just were at a point of like giving up. We had another person who attended the retreat. She was in a relationship and she was like, I don't know how to leave. And it was a 2-year process of her leaving, but we were there to support her and walk her through that. And so everything you described about it. And I just kept thinking of that client you were talking about with the leaf. I could just see the leaf, flying. And it's so true. I think, even like with COVID too, we had so many women that were having to choose to give up their career because somebody had to stay home and educate the kids because they needed their education. And maybe their spouse's income was, much larger. So they had to give up something that they loved. So I just love that you share that, because it's exactly the description I love to have with the retreat. It's really that disconnecting, finding out and sharing and just being vulnerable, like coming in and being vulnerable. And that's why we do the pajamas and no makeup, because I really feel that if you can open up right away, Thursday night, it's wine tasting, we take off our makeup and it's on, and we ask some really powerful questions. We have massage, and because we're on the beach, we're having massage out in a beautiful patio with the oceans. We're right across the street from the beach. We have yoga. We have mini photo shoots available. So a lot of self-care is happening as well around building ourselves up. So I am so excited you were with us today. And I forewarn Leslie, everybody, that we do our typical Better Questions, Better Life cards. And remember, I don't get paid, so go to betterquestionsbetterlife.com and grab your set. But we're going to shuffle the cards, and Leslie's going to tell me when to stop, and she's going to pick her question. So here we go, Leslie. Tell me when to stop.
And stop.
All right. So your question is, I think I know the answer, but am I receptive to new ideas?
Absolutely. I'm receptive to new ideas, feedback, anything that will help me grow and see the things that I may not see about myself or about my community. I'm open to it.
One of the things I always like to do too, like I'm always receptive to new ideas. And sometimes when I'm having a conversation with somebody, they'll ask me, hey, what do you think about this? The first thing I'll say is, are you open to receiving? Because I'm going to be very honest with you, right? So I'm always like, are you open to receiving? And it's funny, we do that in my relationship with my husband. We've been married over 30 years. And we'll have conversations, and I'm like, we have to have a talk, and I'll go, hey, are you open to receiving about something this evening? He's like, they'll tell me yes, no, so I love that, having that openness to receiving and getting that feedback is so powerful.
That's so important to just asking for that, that permission of, is it okay for me, for me to give you my input? And one thing that my soulmate and I do, sometimes there's something on my mind, and he'll ask me, and I think this has been so helpful. He'll say, are you looking for support or comfort? Comfort meaning, do you just want to vent? You don't need me to really help you solve anything, or my support solving anything? Or would you like my support in whether it be gaining clarity on making a choice or what have you? So that's another thing, right? Because what you said, it's important to receive honest feedback as well.
Yeah.
Not just the sugar coated stuff. Like, keep it real. And are you ready? Do you have my permit? Do I have your permission to?
I love that. I'm going to remember that. I wrote that down. So tell us, we're getting ready to close up. So tell us where everybody can find you. We're going to share it too when we post this. But while they're listening, if they've got their piece of paper out, where can they find you?
So I am on LinkedIn on Leslie Cervantes Empowerment Coach. I'm also on Instagram under Leslie Empowerment Coach. And I'm also on Facebook. So Leslie Empowerment Coach. And we'll share the links. But yes, definitely reach out, connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. And I am here as a resource.
Yay, it's been awesome having you. And so as we close out the show, everybody, remember, you come into this world a little rough on the outside of an oyster, but as you open that oyster inside, there's this beautiful pearl. And I want you to leave today and go find your inner pearl of greatness. Have a great day.